And welcome to another great edition of the Bailey Pod. Thanks for joining me on this beautiful day. Just a quick reminder, just remember to go follow and like. You can find the Bailey Pod. We'll be on weekly via YouTube every week, bringing you some really sound content on high school sports and other sports around the actual country and around the local area. Also, too, remember to click the bell to be notified for any new content that we drop throughout the week. Again, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and just introduce my next guest. She is a WTVO Sports Anchor and reporter for WTVO News. Regan Holgate. Regan, how you doing?
TV, what's up? Good to see you.
Good.
Thanks for having me on.
Regan is also too, folks. Regan's also too a Michigan State grad. She graduated from Michigan State 2022. Regan is also too the 2022 Lisa Byington Award winner, given out to the top female broadcaster from the Big Ten Student U programs. Wow, Regan, you're very accomplished.
Thank you. Happy to be on here. What's up?
Glad to have you, my friend. Glad to have you. Hey, a couple things real quick. Just wanted to clear the air on some things. I think you can help corroborate this. A couple days ago, there was a fictitious article that was floating throughout the city, and some things were used that weren't true, factual per se. That was written by somebody. I don't care who it is. Don't know who it is. I'm just going to clear the air. There was an article that came out stating that Tim Bailey had predicted Auburn's power attack to actually run over Boylan this week. And then there were some other quotes made, not by me, by this individual. And I just wanted to clear the air real quick to let people know that wasn't me. Those weren't my words. Somebody obviously was able to cut, copy, and paste. And unfortunately, these are the days that we live in. So let's get on with the show, Regan. Let's dive in it. Let's dive into this thing. I know we're already at midpoint of the season, and a lot has happened. A lot of good things have happened in the Nic10. And there's one particular team that I want to really start off with that I think we need to illuminate due to their record, due to the actual success that they're currently having right now, and that's the Auburn Knights. Yeah. 3-1 start. They were 1-3 at this time last year. Coach Tolan is in his second year as the Auburn head coach. What do you think so far, Regan? I mean, I've had a chance to watch them play. You've had a chance to watch them play. Give me your assessment on what you've seen so far up to this point of the season.
No, honestly, Tim, I'm impressed. I think Auburn is that team this year that's kind of surprising us. Maybe we knew that Coach Tolan was going to come in, with his mindset on wanting to win. And we're seeing that in just his second year, as you said, and they only won 3 games last season in total. So they've already matched that. And we're only now starting week 5. So, I'm impressed. These guys are physical. They're big, and I think in the Nic10 especially, when you've got those physical guys up front, you can compete. But again, they haven't seen a lot of competition. Yes, they had Harlem week 1. They skated by Guilford too. I was at that game, the Auburn-Guilford game, and I was impressed. Patrick DuBose Jr., that man is a tank. I will say it. I will say it all season long. Scott Lever loves the kid, and I know why. He runs through everyone. And I think when you have a kid like him, you can do some great things offensively. But again, I think the one part, that's missing on the offensive front, again, is going to be in that passing game with QB Anthony Purifoy. We haven't seen a ton there. I think not that he exactly matches up, maybe with your Connor Dennis or your Cole Warren, but I think he has some ability there, and I want to see more of that. But again, the biggest thing I think for the Auburn Knights is they haven't been tested by those top 3 teams, the Boylan, the Honolulu, the Belvedere North, and that's going to come this week 5 against Boylan. So I'm excited to see it. Yeah. I like what we're seeing from the Auburn Knights, and I think there's potential there for sure.
Absolutely. And, I think Coach Tolan is doing a phenomenal job in his second year. Last year, he didn't really get a full year with the guys. He was hired in June, so he was a late hire coming in. Didn't get a full year in the weight room with the kids like he wanted. I think he's really reinvigorating that program. And I think Auburn is on track to maybe even potentially make the playoffs this year. I don't want to speak too soon because they still have some tough games left on their schedule. But, you know, the way that they're playing right now, I don't think they're playoff material as of yet. I think they're close. You know, where I would like to see Auburn really improve in is really that QB game. Purefoy, great athlete, does a lot of things with his legs. But you and I both know, you know, there's going to be a point in the game where you're going to be challenged to pass, and you have to be able to step up in that arena of the pass game in order to actually even stay in ball games, let alone win a ball game. Would you agree?
100%. And I've said it to you too before that in the Nic10 in this conference, you're not going to be one of those top tier teams unless you're consistently passing the ball, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. And again, you know, what they have some really good pieces on defense, you know, that front line is very formidable up front. You know, they get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They did a really good job of really just containing great back. We saw last week with Catlin just really pushing, you know, Catlin to the sideline. Catlin was not able to go north and south as he probably wanted to. You know, you gotta pay kudos to the Auburn's defense and the defensive coordinator for, you know, understanding what it takes to actually shut down a very high quality back of Javius Catlin. You know, like I said, on the offensive side, I like what they do. I think Coach Tolan does a good job of really spreading his guys out. You know, really getting his playmakers in space, really getting his playmakers on that perimeter, so they can really have those good one-on-one matchups. Because in my estimation, you know, I think Auburn has probably some of the best skills in the area. You know, out there on the perimeter at the receiver position, also too within the actual backfield, and DuBose and the other young man that transferred over from East. So I was really impressed with what they did last week. I know they were playing a team with a losing record in East, but you know, East is nothing to sneeze at. East is going to come at you each and every week and give you their best. But you know, overall, you know, Auburn really did look like the better team last weekend.
100%. I'm excited to see what the last 5 weeks of the regular season have in store for them for sure.
Absolutely. Agreed. Let's keep moving on here. Let's move on to the Harlem Huskies. You know, they're really still trying to find their identity. You know, they're trying to get their train on the track. You know, we haven't really heard a whole lot as of yet, you know, about, you know, Jamani Muhammad. You know, we haven't heard his name a whole lot as we did last year at this point in the season. And I think the reason that is because, you know, I don't think they have that front offensive line. It's not as formidable as it has been in the past. I don't see the gaping holes that I once saw 2 or 3 years ago, or even last year as a young man in Muhammad was running the ball. You know, the big question mark is the quarterback play. You know, can Anderson really take Harlem to that promised land? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
You said, you know, the train still hasn't left the tracks. I don't know if the train has left the station, Tim. It's hard to see because, you know, I was out at the Harlem Jefferson game. That's the only time I've seen them this season. But again, not seeing anything from Jamani. You have arguably the best running back in the conference. And this guy can't do anything. He's just getting stopped up, you know, at the line of scrimmage. This kid is not able to move anywhere. And we had him on our preseason watch list. I mean, how can you not, right? When you have a weapon like that on your offense and you have talent like that. But they have not found a way to be able to let him do what he does best. And it's again coming with those blocks. It's not there. And again, I've only seen, you know, Derek Anderson with a few snaps, honestly. Didn't get to see much of him in the quarter and a half that I was there. But there was a lot of hype around this team this year. A lot. I think we haven't even scratched the surface in seeing that yet. And it's definitely disappointing because I think, you know, coming into this year, there was a lot, you know, surrounding this team, maybe thinking that they could be one of those to again, try and run the table in the conference. They were the last team standing last year. So it's like, you think that they're hopefully going to build on that, right? But we just haven't seen that yet. And I asked you this on Friday on our overtime show, like, are they going to have to, you know, keep winning on the defensive front? Because that's what they've been doing. These have been defensive battles won by the Huskies. They're 3-1 on paper, but have we seen a team that is really playing at the 3-1 level? I don't think so.
Right, and I agree with you there. I think their defense has done a pretty good job this year. They've only rendered 60 points to their opponents this year. I think offensively they've only scored 62 points. I think offense is where we need to be talking about. When we speak
100%.
of Harlem, what areas do they need to improve in? And I don't just want to just stay glued on the actual quarterback position, but right now, in my eyes and the games that I've seen, that quarterback position, they have to improve in that area. Anderson has to figure out over the next couple of weeks how can he improve weekly going forward, because Harlem makes the playoffs, they get into the playoffs, you just only hope that this kid is actually playing at a really high clip in order to continue to progress once they get into the playoffs. But as it relates to these next 5 weeks, I would like to see him just really go through his progressions and make the throws.
Yeah,
The kid's got decent arm talent. I'm not saying his arm is chopped liver, but I'm just saying that I think he needs to make the big plays. He's got to make those throws, and he's got to be able to throw in those tight windows. And I haven't really seen that yet this year from Anderson. And I know, and I'm pretty sure the coaching staff would maybe agree to disagree with me. And they should. I mean, that's their guy. That's their number one quarterback. That's their guy. So, I'm on the outside looking in, but I'm just giving you my candid assessment on what I see Harlem really struggling with at that QB1 position. What they do at the skills on the perimeter, I think they're solid. They're solid. As you just alluded, Jamani Muhammad is probably one of the best talents in the Nic10, or probably therefore. Let me back up a little bit. Probably, I'm going to go as far as in the area. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that kid, that young man is really that good. He's that talented, and I'm pretty sure he's frustrated. He's probably not going to show it, but I'm sure he wants to be doing more things on offense than he's doing. I said it in week 1 on the OT that, when Scott threw it to me and he asked me, what do I think Harlem needs to do? Well, I stated it, and I'll state it again. You got to get Jamani Muhammad in the passing game. You got to get him on the one-on-one matchups. You got to get him in open space. That's where he makes his money. That's where the young man makes his money. I'm not saying that he can't run between the tackles, but I am saying that in order for Harlem to really get that offense on track, you got to figure out how to get the ball in his hand in the passing game.
100%. I'm with you. And we saw him too against, well, I know that you were out there. It was our game of the week, Hananiga Harlem, but I don't think anyone expected that game to end the way that it did. I mean, hey, no. Hananiga, I'm riding with those boys, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. They're a bunch of dogs out there. But you expected Harlem to put on more of a show there, right? And I don't think we really saw that, and especially that starts on the offense. What were they held to 6-7 points that night? Like,
Yep. 8 points.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I think Harlem has what it takes. I really do. Let's just put that out there. That proclamation is out there. Harlem has what it takes. It's just Harlem is having a tough time. And I said this last year. They're still trying to figure out who they are. It's mid-season. You should know who you are by now. It's mid-season. Yeah, right. But I think they're going to be okay. They just need to continue to improve in those areas that we just highlighted. So
yeah.
Let's keep pushing here. Let's move on to the Guilford Vikings. What do you say about the Vikings? I mean, 1-3 at this current time of the season. They were 3-1 last year at this time of the season, but now 1-3. Under the guidance of a new quarterback, sophomore. Wolf is no longer part of the actual team. My sources tell me he is done at Guilford for the year, and he is over at enrolled at Jefferson High School. So, I wish that young man nothing but luck. Hopefully he finds success and gets his self on track and move forward. So, but as it relates to the Guilford Vikings, I mean, Scott had asked the question on the OT. Do I think that Guilford is just rebuilding, looking at next year? And I don't, my candid retort to Scott was, no, I don't think they're rebuilding. I don't think they really have time to rebuild. I think, what Guilford, it's 5 weeks left in the season. So, knowing the coaches that I know over there, they're not built like that to say, okay, we're going to go ahead and tank. Let's just go ahead and just play a bunch of young guys and let's see, whatever the outcome is, the outcome is. Those coaches aren't built like that. I think Guilford's going to come out every night and try to continue to play and try to put W's up on the board and build off of this going into next year. And then hopefully they can have, some type of winning success going forward as we go into week 5 here. But what's your take on the Vikings this year? I mean, I know you've seen them play. You know the history over there with Coach Cap, who's a wonderful coach. What do you think some of their struggles are right now? And what do you think some of the things that they can do to get that program turned around now?
Yeah, I think it's going to start, at quarterback. Skylar Wolf was one of the reasons, they went as far as they did last year. They were able to make that playoff push that the Vikings have not seen in a long time, right? So I think coming into this year, there was a lot of excitement around that. I was out there for their preseason, the preview that we did on them. Coach Cap was excited, he was excited to have Skylar Wolf back, and having that veteran piece leading your offense. It's never going to hurt you, right? But I think now him not being there, you're feeling that, and we're seeing that. And hey, they're going with a youth movement. You're going with your two sophomores, Xavier Lind and Grayson Weber at quarterback. They're getting their reps now. And no, I don't think that they're in this rebuilding year, but I think there were some personal decisions that had to be made among the coaches, and they decided on that. And hey, we don't need to speak on that. I respect Coach Cap, and I think he's going to take his guys out there, and he wants to win every week, and they're going to do what they can to try and do that. But I also think I don't know if it's going to happen for them this year. Already 1-3 going into week 5. But again, Guilford is never a team that you count out, right? And I think we all learned that last season in the run that they made. So I think offensively, again, moving the ball. You have two very young guys that are taking those snaps, and I think that's always a learning curve for a team when you have that kind of youth out there. But again, I'm excited to see, what the Guilford Vikings do, in the coming years, because I think this is something that is going to help them in the long run, and they're going to learn from it for sure.
Yeah, and I solely agree with you. I think Coach Cap is probably not, in terms of just where the team is now. I don't think he expected to be 1-3 at this time of the season. No. Again, as you watch Guilford, you see what their weak links are. And it's primarily on the offensive side of the ball, as you just stated. I think, bringing a young guy up, a sophomore now playing varsity, that sophomore's got to get really acclimated to the varsity level, because it's a little faster, so to speak, than actually the actual JV level. So, I think Guilford's going to continue to play. They're going to play hard. I think they're going to compete. I don't think we're going to see Guilford getting blown out by anybody if they lose any more games along the way. I think they're going to compete. I think this is a true test to the future, so to speak, because we know they are playing a lot of young guys, truly, really not by choice, but they just have, those younger guys are really, truly stepping up. So, again, with the absence of Wolf, that quarterback position right now is really, truly trying to find itself and actually bring some life, so to speak, to that offense. So, I wish Guilford the best of luck the rest of the way. So, let's keep it moving. Let's go to your squad. Let's go to your squad. I'm just going to put it out there. Your squad, the Hononegah Indians.
I will interject and say I am unbiased. I am an objective reporter here, but I know what I see on the football field, Tim. So you're entitled. That's why I have you on. You're a professional. I love your expertise. Now let's they're 4-0 at this time. You've seen him play. I've seen him play. I mean, what stands out to you, offensively? Let's start with offense. What stands out to you offensively? What are you, when you sit on the sideline and you watch Hononegah play, what are you from 2022 to 2023? What's the biggest difference that you see right now? Cole freaking Warren. That kid, and just everything that he has done. And I will preface this in saying I have not been on the sidelines for them yet. I get to finally in week 6 for the blockbuster game, Hononegah Boylan. I'm very excited for that. But I only get to see, the highlights.
Right. You see highlights.
But that's really all I feel like I need to see at this moment in time. I know exactly what I'm expecting every time those pop up on the screen for us. But no, Cole Warren, just there's a gradual maturation process that happens between your junior and senior year. But for him, to me, it's night and day. Last season, I feel like he was a little bit timid. more scared kind of in those decision-making aspects. But then this season, it's like lights out, bro. Go off. Like, and I talked to him preseason. I think that's why I'm like on this Hananiga train so hard, because I talked to him and Hui preseason, and I like the vibe of this team. They have Coach Sim back, obviously, as we've talked about, but he even told me, he's like, I'm more comfortable in the pocket. I don't feel like I have to rush everything.
Sure.
You see that 100%. And then he's also, I can read defenses better. And, all of his teammates are also saying that. Hui has told me the same exact thing. He's like, this guy, like this kid, and just like the growth that he has made from junior to senior year is awesome. And it's awesome to see. You love when when these high school kids succeed, but for him to be doing it at the level that he is awesome. And I think he's a big key piece to that offense right now. When you have that veteran quarterback, he got some time as the starting QB his sophomore year, but last year was his real first year with the starting job. And now it's just like, I'm sorry, I'm taking Cole Warren over your guy Connor Dennis, and I think it's more just because of what kind of talent he has around him. And we've seen that.
You're entitled. You're entitled to your opinion, my friend.
How long we got, Tim? Because I can just keep going. No,
but you're spot on. Nothing you just stated was in left field. He's a player. He's a different player from last year. I like what he's doing right now. He's making those big throws. He's throwing in those tough windows. He's connecting with his receivers. He's commanding the huddle. He's doing things that a leader should be doing at this point in time of the season. The maturation from 2022 to 2023, it's immense. He's not throwing those ill-advised passes that I saw last year at this time. Again, it seems like there's more velocity on the ball. Again, he's making good reads. It looks like the kid did a lot of studying of film over the summer. And you can just really see it on the field. I mean, he's seamless in a lot of arenas back there at that quarterback position, and he's confident. There's nothing more scarier, particularly at this time of the season or any other point of the season, is to have a quarterback that's really confident. And I think that sums up Cole Warren very well. I mean, he's very confident.
100%.
I like what they do in the running game. I think Poppy does some really good things for them in the running game. And we can't forget about, where everything happens in the trenches. I mean, that beef up front and what Connor, not Connor, but what the young man, the quarterback, is actually, blessed with up there up front.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Warren's got to be sleeping well every night. He's probably taking those guys out to steak dinners every night. I'm sure he is, for protecting him, the way that they have over the last 4 weeks. But, you can't forget about Isaiah Huey in that offense. I mean, he's an integral part in that offense. I mean, he's catching balls out of the backfield. They're using him a little bit more in the actual pass game this year than the run game, because I don't think they really need him too much as they did last year in the run game, with the actual assistance of Poppy. But I think if they need Isaiah.
And I want to add Eston Fichter there too into the run game.
Okay.
He's a key piece.
Yep. He is. Yep. There. He is a key piece. Yes, he is. He is a key piece. But what they're doing offensively, I like. Let's pivot to defense. I think what they're doing on defense, again, a very formidable, front line. That D line, they put a lot of duress on quarterbacks, particularly the game that I saw against Harlem. They flushed the quarterback from Harlem. They flushed him out of the pocket, Anderson out of the pocket on numerous occasions, and forced him to throw, some ill-advised balls that he probably shouldn't have thrown. So, you got to give kudos to their defensive front. I think they're playing well in the secondary. I think Isaiah Huey obviously is the heartbeat of that secondary. They communicate back there very well. I like what they're doing defensively. I like what they're doing schematically. They're really, they're shutting offenses down. I mean, you look at their defense, they've only allowed 33 points this year. They got one of the top two. They got one of the top two defenses in the actual conference. So, I think Hananiga is definitely on their way to do something really good. So, let's go ahead and continue. Let's move to our next team, Regan. Let's go to your team. Let's go to the Boylan Titans. Let's go to the Boylan Titans.
Yeah, my team. Yeah. Right.
Let's talk about these guys here real quick. I like what I see. I I think they have it. I think they have a lot of pieces that are in play, offensively. My big question is, where's Rasheed Johnson? Where's
Donovan
Donovan
Hansard.
Hansard?
Yeah.
These guys haven't. I'm not saying they haven't been a factor this year, but I don't think they've really gotten the actual touches that they actually had last year at this point in time. My question is, why aren't they more involved in the offense? And then also, too, going forward, will we see those two young men in Johnson and Hansard more involved in the offense? I think what they do at quarterback speaks for itself. I think Connor's having great success this season. He's making some really good reads. I like what he did against Belvedere North with bringing the Titans back, marching down the field and getting that big score that they needed in overtime. Again, I talk about leadership at that quarterback position. I think, again, Boylan's offense, with the leadership of Connor Dennis and then the pieces that they have in the backfield, and then they have English, and then they also too have some other guys playing, Calcis Gironi and some other guys playing at that receiver position that can actually step up. And their offensive line is playing well too. I mean, what do you see of the Titans? I mean, I know you were at the Belvedere North game, but what's your take so far of the Titans at midpoint?
Yeah, I think from the start of the season a little bit, those first 2 weeks before we got to that Boylan Belvedere North game, I was a little concerned, I'll say. The offense looked sluggish. They weren't putting up as many points, I think, as we're used to seeing from Boylan. Usually it's like they're going to run the team out of the house, in the first 2 quarters. But we weren't seeing that from the beginning, and I think the Belvedere North game was definitely a bit of a turning point, maybe a bit of a wake-up call. And I think especially more on the defensive front than anything. I thought they moved the ball okay on the offensive end. Again, I think by this point, last year we were saying those names, Rasheed Johnson, Donovan Hansard, all the time. And I feel like we weren't seeing that. I know you told me you kind of feel like those guys just aren't running, like they have previously. So I hope that we can definitely see some improvement there, because when you have the passing game, obviously, that you do with Connor Dennis, you're no doubt going to be a contender for the Nic10 conference championship. But then, what else can you do on offense? And I think that comes again in the running game. But I know you and I have talked about this defensively. Their D-backs gave up some big plays against Belvedere North, and that's not something you want to see, especially against that kind of team that could pop those big plays at any moment with the guys they have, obviously. So I think defensively, especially once Hananigo rolls into town, you're going to have to hope that you have it cleaned up, right? Because they're going to expose you.
Right. And I'm gonna go back to offense. You can't discredit what Austin Alonso's been doing at the running back position as well. He's been doing a phenomenal job. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be playing at that position. He should be playing at that position, but I think what needs to happen is figure out a way to how to get actually all three of those guys the same amount of carries. Okay. Figure out a way to get all three of those guys on the field at the same time. That's a three-headed monster. That is a defensive coordinator's nightmare.
Yeah.
When you have Johnson on the field, when you have Hanson on the field, and then you have Alonso on the field. And I didn't even mention English. I didn't even mention Dixon. They have a bevy of playmakers. They have playmakers at their disposal. You just need to figure out how to get those guys more involved in that powerful offense. Is that offense good now? Yeah, it's a good offense. Can it be better? Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But I think that also just comes with time, Again, it is only halfway through the season, and you hope by once you reach, week 8, week 9, you are where you need to be able to obviously compete and make that playoff push.
Yep, you have to, and they're doing well on defense. I mean, let's not discredit what they're doing on defense. I like what they're doing.
Yeah.
That front line. They have a very formidable line. I like it. I like what they do at the second level. I think they give quarterbacks fits. They give offensive coordinators fits. I like what they do in the secondary. But I will say in the secondary, I don't like some of the actual the miscues, so to speak, in the secondary. You're giving up passing plays that you shouldn't be giving up, and I'm particularly talking about, the Belvedere North game, giving up, those type of passing plays to a team that doesn't even pass more than twice a game. That's unacceptable. I'm pretty sure coaches know that's unacceptable, but those defensive backs can't allow those types of things to happen, because again, from here on out, the competition only gets stiffer.
I like your Titans. I do. There's no doubt that they're, a number one top 2 team right now for sure. But that big test, week 6, I think is going to tell us a lot.
Yeah, it's going to tell us a lot. I think what we're going to see in week 6 next weekend, I think we're going to see 2 great teams going head to head, trying to knock each other out of the race. Because there can be a tie, but I don't think any of those programs, the way I know those 2 programs, they don't want to be co-champions.
No.
Right. They don't want to be co-champions. So it's going to be very tumultuous, so to speak, in that stadium. It's going to be a very live environment, and I think it's going to be a really good one. We're in for a treat next weekend. So let's continue to move the needle here. Let's move on to Belvedere North. We just talked about Belvedere North somewhat in the caption here. We just highlighted Boylan. We talked about that game. 3-1. They're sitting at 3-1 right now. They got that sour taste out of their mouth. They've gone on a 2-game winning streak since the big loss to Boylan. What are some of the things that you think offensively, and we're going to start with offense. What do you think some things offensively that you would like to see Belvedere North do moving forward?
I want to see Max Gillenswan put that ball through the air more than 2-3 times a game,
Agreed.
And we've talked about it too. And I know you and I were saying the same thing on the sidelines as we're watching this game. It's like Belvedere North has their run game set. Like there's no question in that. But that one-dimensional offense is not going to win you a conference championship. And I think
at all.
And that's not me dogging on Belvedere North. I think that's just,
right.
The truth of the matter.
Right.
I've told you this before. I've probably already said it, but you don't win in this conference unless you're consistently going through the air. And,
right. Agreed.
I think Max Gillenswan, we obviously saw that a few times from him against Boylan, but it was in the most crucial moments that we saw that, right? It's like, why aren't we throwing the ball more? You have the guys that you can, put out there. It's just, I think it's more about utilizing the talent you have and finding different spaces for them to be in. And I hope that they find that, because the few times that we did see, Gillenswan go for it, hey, it ended up all right. Like you weren't going into overtime unless he made those types of plays. So, yeah.
Right. And I just to piggyback on what you're saying, I think Coach Beck knows he's got great talents, in the backfield in Bertolino and Brown. I don't know how comfortable he is with throwing the ball. I mean, I do know the bread and butter of Belvedere North's offense is the run game. We know that, but I think what we're conveying here to viewers is that you have to add some actual passing wrinkles in that offense. You can't go through this conference, or maybe you can, but in my estimation, you can't go through this conference just run heavy. Particularly if you're going to become a playoff team. Because particularly when you get into playoffs, that competition gets tougher, and as that competition gets tougher, you have to have a more diverse offense. You cannot be one-dimensional. So if anything, I'd like to see Belvedere North offensively, work Bertolino and Brown into the perimeters. Throw in some intermediate passing plays. You don't have to go 70, 80 yards in the air, because I don't think the young man has that type of arm talent. But I think there is some things that you can actually implement into that really good offense that would actually allow you more balance and maybe some better movement in the playoffs. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, 100% agree with you.
Let's pivot to their defense. Defensively, I like what they do. They have one of the top defenses, in the actual conference. They've only rendered 59 points to their competition this year. They're one of the top 2 defenses in the actual Nic10. What do you see defensively that, you said the times that you watched when you said to yourself, okay, well, they probably need to really improve in that area there. And then also too, what are some things that you see defensively that they actually do well?
I think what they do well, again, Bertolino and Brown, a big key piece of that defense. When I talk to Coach Beck preseason, and he says this all the time, like they're the heartbeat of that defense, as you just said about Isaiah Hui too with Hanaliga. So again, same thing with them at linebacker, obviously. So I like what they do there. But I think the one thing that is maybe a bit different than we're used to seeing with Belvedere North. They don't have the same size that they used to have, in the
Right.
interior. So
Right.
I think again that hurts them a little bit. But I liked what I was seeing, against Boylan. That has obviously been their biggest test this season. No, they didn't come out on top, but like they were competitive and they were forcing those turnovers, and then they were capitalizing on those turnovers. So I think if you kind of keep doing along those lines of what you're doing, hey, I like it. I think the biggest thing with this Belvedere North team, for me at least, is on the offensive side of the ball. But
agreed, 100%. I mean, we don't have to continue to preach to that. I think everybody who's seen Belvedere North play and knows the history of Belvedere North, the passing game hasn't always been, their favorite to go to, and it could be personnel, reasons why Coach Beck,
100%.
is not putting the ball in the air a little bit more. So, but hopefully going forward, they can add those wrinkles into their offense to, again, make that offense even more efficient than it is now. Regan, let's go ahead and move to Belvedere. The Belvedere Bucks currently sitting right now at 0-4. We're 0-9 last year, and also too we're 0-4 at this time last year. What are some of the things that it's demoralizing, I'm sure, for the players, to not have won a game, last year, and now you're sitting at 0-4, and you're looking at your schedule, and you still have some formidable teams that you haven't even played yet, that could end up being, losses. What do you think Belvedere needs to do moving forward to actually try to put some W's up on that board?
Yeah, for me, I think it was more just about, getting like the guys out there. The numbers, the numbers that they're fielding just aren't enough to sustain. And, but I really, really like Coach Ambrosio, and I respect him, and I think he has the right mindset for these guys. If he's going to be, if there is one person that is going to turn this program around, I would put it in his hands 100% of the time. But I think it's just, when Belvedere did split between, North and now Belvedere, I think you saw a lot of those kids flock to Belvedere North. Obviously, we've seen the success there. So,
agreed.
But the biggest thing I'll say is these guys love football. There's no doubt about it. They told me this season that they've had the best summer attendance that they've ever seen. So the work is there and they're trying. And I think that's the biggest thing that I can say about this Belvedere team is they have the heart to do it. Do they have the numbers or the depth? Maybe not. But they have guys who care and who want to leave a legacy with this Belvedere team. Does it come this year? I don't think so. They definitely don't want another goose egg on the record. I can tell you that. And who does, right? But I think, they have that will and determination to try and get there. And I think that's one of the key pieces in the heart of the Bucks team. And I think we're going to see it someday soon. It might not be this season, it might not be next, but they're going to be there.
Right. And you have to commend Coach Ambrosio for just just hanging in there, and he comes to compete every night. I know him on a personal level. I know he comes to compete every night. He's trying to do everything he can to actually reinvigorate that program. I think his big problem is just really numbers. I don't think he's got the numbers that he would like. I know last year I believe they only fielded like about 24, 25 athletes. They're probably at about the same this year, maybe a few more. That can be kind of tough when you're trying to put an offense and a defense together, and you're trying to, preclude guys from going both ways. And you do see a lot of two-way players today, but, sometimes, everybody's not built to play two ways. So, I agree with you, Regan. I think he's trying. I think he can eventually get that program to where he wants to get it to. It's just a matter of time. Will it be this year? Probably not. No. But I think he's going to go out every night and put everything on the line to make sure that he tries to compete with whoever, whether it's Boylan, Hattoniga, Jefferson East, any of these Nic10 teams, because again, he wants to leave a legacy there, and he wants to establish something, and he wants to develop a winning culture. Who doesn't, right?
Right. Yeah. 100%.
So let's move on to the E-Rabs. The E-Rabs are now 1-3. I got a chance to see East play a couple times this year. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to really get the train on track. You see Catlin really struggling to do, what he's usually doing. But this year, I don't think he's the same Catlin as we saw last year, in terms of his productivity. Is he still playing at a high level? Yes, he's still playing at a high level, but there are some things that I've seen that he was able to do last year that he's just not able to do this year. What do you think one of the reasons is for that? I mean, I know they play a lot of young guys. They had some guys transfer over to Auburn. But what do you think some of the things are offensively that East needs to fix in order to continue to compete going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I've seen the ERABs at all this year, so I'm gonna, side with you on that one and go with you with what you're saying.
Sure.
But again,
Sure.
I know what Catlin said preseason, and it's a senior year. He
Sure.
wants to go out with a bang, right? And I just, it's gotta hurt a little bit, just not being able to move the ball the way that he wants to. I think it's kind of, you can parallel the two between that and Harlem and what, they're unable to do offensively. And again, I always think that starts, at quarterback. But yeah, they lost some kids to transfers, and that's always going to hurt. But, Coach Griff he's always got, the right mindset. I think he's,
absolutely.
He wants to compete. So do his guys. But I think again, it's just going to come with time for this team, and unfortunately that'll be after Catlin has graduated.
Yeah. And you speak to, you just alluded to, Coach Griff's his energy, his will to want to win, and he's a competitor. And you're absolutely right. He's a competitor. He wants to win. I think right now, what he's experiencing, he's playing a lot of young guys.
Yeah.
And that's not an excuse, but he's playing a lot of young guys. He's trying to figure out, who's who still, so to speak, who's going to step up. And without that quarterback play, that solid quarterback play, and I've said this for years, and I've said this to you the last couple of years I've known you, until some of these programs can actually find a quarterback that can, at least complete 70% of his plays. I think a lot of these teams are going to continue to struggle, offensively, because they're just too one-dimensional.
Yep. Totally agree with you.
Let's go ahead and keep the needle moving. Let's go ahead and skip over to the Freeport Pretzels. Let's talk about Freeport a little bit. Freeport currently right now 1-3. Coach Dedman is trying to, again, get that train on track, trying to find their identity, still trying to figure out, what can we do and where do we need to fine tune things? I mean, what are some things that you have seen or have seen via film on the actual Freeport Pretzels, to make you say, okay, wow, okay, Freeport's got a really good team, but they're just missing some key pieces right now?
I think for me, even starting at the beginning of the season, I was like, if there's a year that Freeport's going to make a push, it's got to be this year. If not now, when? They have their core group of senior guys who have been playing since they were freshmen at the varsity level. So they've matured all the way through this system for the last 3 years. Let's get it going, and I don't think they've found that offensively. And those guys I'm talking about, Dedrick Macon, Denarius Jackson, Sammy O'Day on the line, JJ Hall. So it's those guys that have been there through it all, and they so badly want to see the playoffs. And
they want to win
them, and I think
they want to win.
I think they have that energy, and this group is a family, and there's no question about that. Like, they all have each other's backs, and I think that's the kind of culture that Dedman has created at Freeport. But again, it's all starting, at that quarterback position. And Peyton Woker, in his first year this year, he's a junior. He was, their sophomore QB for their sophomore team. But I think he's, struggling a little bit. He's kind of new to the system. New with the guys. There were some miscues there, and I don't think they've fully put all the pieces of the puzzle together there on offense. Right.
And you just alluded to Bacon. He's a special player, probably one of the better players, probably one of the best players in the Nic10. I've definitely put my stamp on that. Just really trying to get him more involved in that offense. Get him involved in the passing game, as they tried to last year. The kid's been playing varsity ever since he was a sophomore. And you look at their quarterback play and you say, okay, can they win with this quarterback? And, right now it doesn't look like they can. But, hopefully, Freeport can get this train on track and actually put some W's up there on that board before the end of the season. Playoffs, I don't know if playoffs in their cards. I really don't. They still have some formidable teams that they have left on their schedule that they have to try to get through. But anything's possible. But as of right now, I think Freeport's really truly still trying to find their identity on both sides of the ball, for that matter.
Yeah.
But again, Coach Detmans, he's a winner. I think he comes out every night wanting to compete. He's a competitor himself. He understands what it takes to win. I think right now, again, one of their biggest hurdles, they're just, they don't have those quality players. They have good players, but they don't have quality players. They don't have enough of them. Let me put it that way. They don't have enough of those players as they do in some of the other key players. So let's keep this needle moving. Let's conclude this thing here with the Jefferson Jayhawks. Jefferson right now sitting at 0-4 under a new head coach. Regan, you've had a chance to talk to Coach over there at Jefferson. What are some of the things that he wanted to actually implement right away? And do you think that Jefferson can actually win any games this year?
I think they can sneak in there and grab a game or two. But I like his mindset. I like his energy, because as a,
Sure.
he wants this team, this program to get back to being a winning program. They haven't seen a winning season in I don't know how long. It's been a long time. We'll just leave it at that.
Well,
he's a former.
Let me pause you for a second. I think the last, I forget what year it was, but I do know who the coach was. It was Ken Dubose, the current coach, current defensive coordinator at Harlem. That was the last year Jefferson had a winning season, and they were pretty good.
Okay.
And I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, probably almost close to about 7-8 years ago, if that.
Okay.
Again, I'm surmising, but I think I'm close.
Somewhere around there probably. And
right, for sure.
he was a former Jayhawk, so he's he's seen that field, he's seen what that team is capable of.
Right.
So but I think the biggest thing with him was trying to develop their running attack and focusing on that. And I think the biggest thing for the Jayhawks this season, obviously, they lost their quarterback in Sebastian Bracious, and I think we were all excited to see what he was going to do in his junior year.
Yeah, we were.
He's dynamic, and I think
yes, he is.
He was going to do
definitely one of the better quarterbacks in the area for sure.
Yeah, and I know Scott Leber was very excited about him too. So obviously, wishing him the best and a speedy recovery, and hopefully we'll get to see him out there next season. But I think it's a new mindset with a new coach, and I think all of these kids are just having to kind of acclimate to that. But that's always what happens, right? When a new coach comes in, he didn't have, all the time with the guys either. So, but I think there's potential there. I think you can see that. I saw them play against Harlem, and hey, they were giving the Huskies a little bit of a run for their money. So I'm all for it. And I think, in the coming years, we're definitely going to see them hopefully, make that push.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting because the film that I saw, it looks like they're improved in some areas. I think they're better coach this year. Yeah. I think he wants to win. I think he wants to implement that winning culture. I think he wants to establish a culture, set the standard. I think that's important too, being able to come in and set that standard going forward for these kids that are coming in behind some of these seniors now. I think that's key. I think he wants to lay down that foundation. So now, as he's in charge of the program as the head coach, I think what he wants to do, he wants to actually just probably get into the middle of the pack in the next couple of years. Yeah. I'm not sure if he sees Jefferson being number one as of yet. I'm pretty sure that's in his cards. But I think right now, I'm thinking what he probably wants to do is just try to develop a winning culture over there at Jefferson.
Yeah, 100%.
Regan, we're gonna wrap up here. Before I let you go, though, got $1 million question. We're in mid-season. Some teams are 4-0. Some teams will be 5-0 after this Friday night. Right now, individually, who's your leading MVP candidate right now at mid-season, and why is that individual?
So this is interesting for me to say because I haven't seen my boys on the field yet, but I don't need to.
Do you need a drum? You need a drum roll?
Do you have that effect? Do you have that sound effect?
We don't have that effect.
No. Okay. We'll get it there. But no, to me, I don't have just one. For me, it's either going to be Cole Warren or Isaiah Hui. Those two guys are, again, as we've said multiple times, the heartbeat of what Hananiga does. That's not to discount any of the other guys, in the conference and especially for the Indians. But I think Cole Warren is really, really making a statement for himself already, through 4 weeks this season. And the same goes for Hui. He's already the leading receiver in the conference. I don't really see that changing. So I'm excited to see what they can do, and especially against your Titans. I know you're keeping it, you're gatekeeping all of us with who you're taking for that game. So it's fine. I'm going to ask you on Friday, though. I'm going to ask you on overtime on Friday.
Well, you can ask me on Friday, but you can't ask me today.
Yeah, I know. Whatever. But no, I'm excited. I'm excited about those two guys. And there was a reason. I'm pretty sure I took Connor Dennis in my preseason picks, for my watch list, but Cole Warren is my guy. That's my guy. Those are my two guys. Right. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens, because I really think they've pushed themselves into that MVP conversation for
sure. Well, hey, yeah. I mean, I would have to side with you. I think he's playing at a high clip right now. Would I consider him my leading candidate right now? I'm not sure yet. I think after next Friday night, I'll figure out who my leading MVP candidate is at that time.
Have me back on.
I want to see. Yeah, we'll be exactly. But what I want to see, though, Regan, on a serious note, I want to see the two best quarterbacks in the Nic10. We know who they are.
100%.
I want to see those guys go head to head.
Yeah.
I want to see those guys go head to head. And I think the entire city does as well. I think the entire state does. And I think after that game, we can sit down and have a coffee, and then I can share with you who my MVP candidate is.
Yeah. Agreed? I don't think there's enough seating at Titan Stadium for the amount of people that are going to come out for this game.
You got to get there early.
Yeah. I mean, seriously.
You got to get there early.
There's not even going to be room for us on the sidelines, Tim. I mean, it's going to be crazy.
Think it will be. I think we'll be fine.
I'm excited for it, though. I think it's
good. But no, absolutely. I think it'll be a great matchup. I think this is what everybody's been waiting for all season.
Yep.
I think both teams are going to, just slugging at each other.
Yep.
And I think every athlete on that field that plays next Friday night is just going to leave it out there on the field.
Heck yeah. This is the one they circle on their calendars, right?
Yep. Circling on our calendar. Well, hey, Regan, it's been fun spending time with you on the Bailey Pod. Catch the Bailey Pod every week. Also via YouTube. Also remember to click the bell to be notified for any new content that will drop throughout the week. Again, Regan, let's have fun this weekend on the sideline, and I'll see you in the studio, my friend. Thank you.
All right, thanks, TV. See you for week 5.
All right, enjoy.